Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday. And now you want to top it off with the crowning achievement. Rick Bozich and Bob Kravitz join me. Gentlemen, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you, man?
No hat today.
No
Hatless
hat
Wednesday.
because I got to run downtown and do an interview in about 15 minutes. So no hat
Didn't want to
today.
mess the hair up.
What hair? It's just coming out in clumps.
Oh, man. Rick Bozich, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm just following how 131 college football programs are having the best recruiting class in the history of the program, fitting every need and nothing but high character kids who are motivated and hungry to attack the day.
Yeah, it's one of those years, huh?
Special. It's a special year. Well, all kinds of things going on. First of all, we've seen Michael Penix end up out in Washington with Kalen DeBoer and Nick Sheridan as the tight ends coach at Washington, which okay, but good for both of those guys. I think that's great for Michael Penix, especially. Probably gives him the best opportunity to be able to do anything. But Kalen DeBoer knows. I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I look, Michael Penix is certainly a risk worth taking. I mean, I don't know Washington football real well, which is to say I don't know it at all. So I don't know who else they have at quarterback, but certainly he's a worthwhile risk, because if he comes back and he plays anything close to the way he did a couple of years ago, it's a great find. And if he doesn't, you've got, I would assume, another quarterback. So I think it's a good move by DeBoer, and it's a good move by Michael.
I just hope Michael Penix has a chance to play one season where he can stay healthy,
yes,
and he's protected by an offensive line that doesn't make him flinch or duck every time he drops back to pass. And, then we'll find out, if he can get back to the way he was during that 2020 season and have the kind of games he had against Penn State and Ohio State when he made people believe that, Indiana football was special. And it all fell apart last year, but a lot of reasons for that. And obviously, initially the word was Central Florida, which is near his hometown, right? That's in Orlando, and he's from Tampa. But Kalen DeBoer and Nick Sheridan makes sense. And it also helps Indiana football some, because now Sheridan's going to get paid, and the buyout that Indiana has to pay him goes down. So they save a little money.
And Tom Allen saved some money off of his contract, right? At $800,000 that he had to give up.
I think so. Yeah. Although I've heard discussion that they could use that and invest it in maybe possibly some other changes.
Mm-hmm.
Other coaches, yeah. But I was talking about that with Mitchell Page and Derek Jackson earlier. Surprised that there has not been other changes, but with the today's college football signing day period, I know you don't want to have a lot of disruptions, but at the same time, are you going to go in right behind that and fire a coach that was out on the recruiting trail helping make the college football day happen?
I mean, that happens all the time. We see it happen all the time. It might not happen tomorrow or the next day, but it happens over the next week or 2 or 3 weeks. And, there might be coaches there that, because of the trickle-down effect, they might get an opportunity somewhere else because another staff makes a coaching change. So I would doubt they bring the entire staff back the same way it was last season.
Well, especially with Walt Bell now being hired, and because that's where a lot of the questions were, obviously, on the offensive side of the ball. The line, shocked if there has not, and if there's not, I'll be more than shocked, a change there when you have the same personnel back and the results are horrible. And there's no reason for me to think that that's going to get better. So that's definitely a position I think that is tenuous at best. Bob?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, when you've got that group and they don't perform, change is definitely in the air, and it wouldn't shock me if they do continue to move forward and with some changes.
I know college basketball. Rick has a piece out at WDRB.com. Make sure you go there. Thinking that Kentucky, Louisville, IU all headed back to the NCAA tournament or the bubble alert, one of the two. None of them are strong. Kentucky coming off of a loss to Notre Dame, Indiana with the loss at Wisconsin after leading by 22, and Louisville having their problems with not just on the court, but with Chris Mack and all that. So those are three teams that usually were always strong, but now they're in a precarious situation.
Yeah, I mean, it started last week with Indiana blowing that 22-point lead at Madison and just withering up and going away in the second half. And then on Friday night, Louisville played at home against DePaul. Had a 1 for 19 stretch in the first half, missed 12 straight three-pointers. And they've already lost 3 games, and 2 of them are the non-NCAA tournament teams, Furman and DePaul. And then Kentucky, which has the most timid schedule in the history of college basketball. They played Duke and then 7 straight cream puffs and went up to Notre Dame and got beat. And now that you do hear a little bit of grumbling about John Calipari. So all 3 teams at this point really none of them have done anything spectacular. I mean, none of them have any like top 25 wins yet.
Hey guys, I'm curious what you guys think. I'm sorry, Jim, it's your show, but I'm curious what you think about the Crossroads going away.
I'm happy about it. I think Indiana did not gain anything from it. From that standpoint, I mean, it's cool to be able to play Notre Dame because Indiana had always played Notre Dame back in the Bob Knight era, and that was one of those December games, and that was okay. Butler had not risen to what they had become, but I don't know. It's just not enough of a marquee event, and I think there are too many marquee events this day and age for Indiana to be involved in that will help them more, like signing a home and home with Kansas immediately to replace Notre Dame. That is – I was talking about it. Can you imagine the atmospheres in Fog Allen and Simon Scott Assembly Hall for those 2 games? It's going to be nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been curious, and maybe you can help me here. Why Purdue, who is obviously a top 3, top 5 team, why they like the Crossroads? Why did they? I know Matt Painter wanted to continue on with this event.
I don't know. I can't answer that.
I've always found that kind of curious because, while IU is still the marquee program in the state, the better team, clearly the better program is Purdue.
I think part of it might have been that, for Purdue, it was a chance to get some really great exposure in Indianapolis and be part of an event like that. And remember, the event that preceded that a long time ago was the Big Four Classic, which was Louisville, Kentucky, Notre Dame, and Indiana when they played it at the Hoosier Dome, the RCA Dome, and Purdue got left out of that. And then they get into this. But I agree with Jim. I mean, for Indiana, to me, it was a lose-lose situation. If they beat Notre Dame or Butler, I think a lot of Indiana fans shrugged like you're supposed to beat those teams. But when they lost, people went crazy. And I know from talking to Tom Crean back when he was here that he was okay with it for a while, but he was not a big advocate of continuing it, in part for that reason.
Right. Okay. Back to your show, Jim.
No, but I mean, I like that. It's sad that it's not better. It would be nice if it was better. But I don't know. It just seemed to run its course. Okay. And then with Indiana not playing Kentucky, I think that adds to it because you didn't have that big game that you were looking forward to. Kansas, well, that's only for 2 years, but that may help alleviate that. But what do they do next? What do they do after that? Obviously, Mike Woodson is trying to up the ante on the schedule. He's talked about trying to get games scheduled in Madison Square Garden. So he's trying, you can tell, wants a more high-profile program, which that's part of what you need in recruiting and all that. I think Indiana's lost some of that. Well, I know they have that higher profile of being the blue blood. They're still a blue blood, but they're hanging on by their morals, their laurels of past. Not the morals, the laurels.
Blood transfusion.
I'm telling you, yeah, they're hanging on, but Mike Woodson knows what that is, and he's trying to get that back. Yeah. And just getting it back is part of the battle. If you're doing it, I think the players will start to come. But then we've got NIL and all this crap, and how that's going to change college sports. And that's the worst thing to me is NIL or all these rule changes that have happened at the same time that have changed college sports forever. And for football, I don't know what it's going to be like. I mean, these SEC teams, I'd like to know what Quinn Ewers, I know that he had to, I can't imagine what he received to go to Texas. And it was at Lane Kiffin. I should have had John. I should have had you pull that clip up from yesterday of Lane Kiffin, basically being the only head coach to come out and say, "Look, we're paying these players. These are paid players, paid athletes, and it's whoever pays the most is going to get them." That's pretty big for a coach to say, Rick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much that's changed from how much it was in the past. I don't think we are naive enough to think that the top recruits weren't getting paid in the past. We just didn't. We kind of looked the other way and hope the NCAA investigators occasionally turned up something, and they rarely did. Yeah, it's going to cause. I read, I think it was Monday, 100 players on Monday alone went in the portal. 100. Wow. It's. I mean, every time somebody gets a recruit, if you follow that program, somebody who's a backup or thought they were going to be the starter at that position goes in the portal because they think that they'll be recruiting over or they're being pushed aside. So yeah, I think it's going to have to be refined in some way because it's a chaotic system, and it might be great for the players, but I don't think it's good for the fans who follow the game because it used to be in college sports a guy would come and you'd watch him develop and you'd follow his career, and now it's like you don't even know who's on the team from week to week.
Nope,
that is the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say this: has the portal saved like a team like Indiana? The portal seems like it might have saved teams like that versus the teams that have the stronger NIL situations going, because sometimes these guys need to find a home. They're not thinking about NIL. They just want to find a good home. And I think the portal may offset this NIL stuff for teams like Indiana.
It could be. It seems like some of the places they've gotten players from, they've gotten a bunch of players from the SEC, and that could be a situation where a guy was a highly ranked recruit and went to an SEC school, and then he got recruited over or pushed aside, and he decides, hey, I'm not going to get to play here, and I'll go somewhere else where I will. They have two guys coming from Ole Miss and one guy coming from Auburn and two or three other things.
Yeah, hey, gentlemen, can I interrupt real quick like I usually do?
Always.
I've got to be downtown in 45 minutes, so and I'm adding absolutely nothing to the discourse. So the Jim and Rick show. I got to roll. I apologize. It's just one of those days.
That's all right.
And of course, I've got to take a little time to work on this.
All right.
Yeah, we gotta make sure that get out, check out the Athletic. Bob's got a story from the Pacers, or they are going through who knows what. They're going through trying to rebuild right in the middle of the season. So that could be fun. But
yeah, they put three guys that are going in the portal, right?
Portal. It's all about the portal and the NIL. That's the way it works. I'll have a couple stories tomorrow. Let's see. One is on the with the Patriots coming into town. I felt like I needed to relive the fake punt of 2015, quite possibly the worst conceived and executed play in the history of the National Football League. And I can't tell you what I'm working on right now, but I'll have an interesting story later today that's also Pacers related.